going to be talking about operationalizing machine learning. And Sravan is from the Divergence Academy. And get his flyers afterwards. He's also been a prior speaker here on machine learning.
And in many other places.
Thanks.
Thanks, Paul. Scott, thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Sravan. I'm the founder and CEO of Divergence Academy. We are the only school in Texas, vocational career trade school, focused on data science that's been approved by Texas Workforce Commission. That's the only spiel I have about Divergence Academy. If you want to know more about it, what we do, there's one slide in the back that talks about our bootcamp immersive program starting September 5th. That's going to last 12 weeks. If you heard about Galvanize, which the Zipkin Academy became Galvanize, we are the school here in Texas focused on bootcamp. What happens after model is built and machine learning model is built? This is a question that comes up when I go to companies where they are SaaS users. And a lot of enterprise companies are SaaS. SaaS companies have model managers. If you heard, models are governed. Once you deploy a model, they want to know where the model is being used, who is using it, for what purpose. For governance purposes, compliance purposes, regulatory purposes, ethics, privacy, security purposes, they want to know who is using models where. So that got me thinking about, we spend a lot of time talking about models, creating models, but we never talk about what happens after the model is deployed. And I think it's a pretty big concern organizations have, especially those that have not adopted machine learning and artificial intelligence, because they're truly concerned about machines making decisions, organizational decisions, data-driven decisions. And as an instructor, as a founder, this has been on top of my mind. I don't think I have answers for you, but I have a lot of questions. If you have figured out how you're handling data governance in your organization, I'd love to hear. Okay, this is an open-ended question. I would love to hear. Because as much as there is fanfare around machine learning, there are a lot of companies that are not there yet, right? So for me, as a Microsoft leader, one of the things I've spent a lot of time on performance and security. How do you make systems work, and how do you tackle performance? And remember, we all love to do cool stuff. Nobody wants to do maintenance. You know why? I think it says it all, right? And that's a challenge we all have. Well, you got to overcome that, right? And the other part really is, at what time do you go back and revisit the model that you built? Prediction is great, data imputation is great, wrangling is great, trifactor is great, H2O is great. What time do you go back and revisit the model? Remember, there's a whole lot of research going on around conceptual drift, as in your prediction is drifting from what you modeled initially when you're doing the training model. And the whole concept comes around, from the SaaS guys, everybody, at what time do you go and intervene? What are your intervention mechanisms? What are your governance mechanisms? And there is a great paper by Google called Managing Technical Debt. At the bottom, I have a few words that I chose from that. It talks about boundary erosion. Changing anything changes everything. So if you change a model, it changes everything. Changing anything changes everything. So think about when you introduce a model, a variable, anything like that in the model, it changes everything that you initially thought about from a dependencies, variable dependencies perspective. Hidden feedback loops, somebody else is using your model and has introduced something more complex that you did not think about. Undeclared consumers, these are people that are using your model that never told you they were going to use it internally. And now they have all these data-driven decisions based off your model that you never had any intention, right, to be used by somebody else. So there's a challenge there. Changes in the external world introduces a lot of drift. World changes, and you introduced a variable, and that is being used in your model. You got to think about those. Now, these are things that I think about is when I go into an organization as a consultant or a guy, a thought leader, a leader, and I sit down and talk to them about, all right, now that you built a model, what are you doing about it? What are your processes that you're going to do to manage it? Of course, a lot of people are not there yet. People are still, twiddling their thumbs about, hey, do a proof of concept prototype, but these are big issues. Okay. A couple of things that I think about, a lot of conversation about H2O because I think H2O got funding from Capital One, and Capital One uses a lot of H2O, right? They just got a Series B funding.
Yes,
Yes.
something like that.
So they use a concept called POJO, plain old Java objects. So if you build a model, they serialize that in a POJO format, so you can use the model in production in Java. So people write code and maybe in Python, Java, Scala, whatever, but the model that is created is saved in POJO format, plain old Java object format, so you can use that in production. PMML, there's a company called Zementis. I played around with Zementis, predictive modeling markup language. You save your model in an XML format, and specifically in a PMML format, but it's not totally XML format. And you can, managing the models, model deployment, and all the good stuff you can do as Zementis. This is the new one, portability format for analytics. Came from Data Management Institute. It's still, I would call it beta, but there's a lot of great work going on in there. So any model you create in any language can be saved in a PFA format and can be loaded up in Java or any other language. The goal is you separate out your training and modeling from your scoring purposes. People who've done a lot of Python do pickling. So you save your model that you built, you save it in a pickle format, and you send it to your engineer. They load up your pickle format and use it in production. Okay? Again, I'm kind of leaving you with some notes here. You separate out, you got training, you finish your training. A lot of data scientists spend time here training. You save your model. When you do scoring, scoring is built, the engineering comes in. And there is if you've done a lot of Docker containerization, microservices, universal, 1 minute. All right. Okay, I got to move on, right? So no problem. Thank you. So again, separation of concerns, analysis code needs to be hardened. Think about analyst laptop does not need to adhere to software design principles. Deployment issues are becoming more common, right? So in big data, you got to move from laptops to server farms. You think about the issues there. The other ones is, I think I talked a little bit about flexibility, from more rigid to more flexible. You got to have a format that can be used on the engineering side. This is a big one, this is a big slide, but the point here is, when people talk about data science, they say, I have sample data, can you build a model? It's not sample data, I want real data. I don't want 1,000 rows of data from production. I really want to have access to real data that's in production so I can get some insights out of it. Staging areas, sandbox, pre-production, production. It's all where is the data, where is it sitting at, and can I have access to that, please? Right? And people say, I have 2,000 rows and I need a great machine learning model and I want to deploy it in production. You're not going to get anything out of it. Right? The last part really is the role of an engineer is in a post-deployment, how do you manage it? And data scientist comes in, exploratory, model deployment, and A/B testing. A lot of rapid experimentation. You're going to build a model, you're going to experiment, you're going to go back, rebuild a model, give it to engineer, experiment again. You got to keep doing it forever. And there is no free lunch. You got to have good environment, good infrastructure to do it. Okay. Last slide. 8-week course. It goes all the way from exploratory data analysis to machine learning models and time series for IoT scenarios. This is kind of comprehensive. It's been approved by Texas State. So I'm proud of what we put together for people here in this area, not of Dallas and DFW. What else am I working on? This is some of the things that have been on top of my mind. You saw maintenance is boring, huge pile of. By the way, these are the other topics I'm working on. There's going to be ebook and a bunch of blog posts. At the end, really, we talk about Industry 4.0 revolution and IoT. There's a lot of stuff we got to do. There's pipelines, workflows everywhere. Right? Thank you. Any questions? Yes, sir.
The model development or the sharing you introduced, Pojo, is .NET used at all, or is it just in the Java world?
Mostly Java. Java only.
I'll
Because
ask
the
that.
way it does is it writes a class file out, and you use the class file when you build your scoring model. So the data is the class model. The model is serialized as .class, and then .jar files when you get in.
So technically, it's a JVM specific,
Correct.
so anything that will generate a class file will
Correct.
work.
Correct.
Gotcha.
So your question was .NET, so no .NET, sorry.
So I've worked with a lot of companies where we talked about PML as an export-import mechanism, and I'm wondering how, some of the more entrenched companies that have been around for decades, I mean, are they trying, I wonder how open-minded they are in terms of supporting PML